It's very good, Steve. It's
that's it. Say no more.
That's it.
And subscribe, please, people.
That's it. That's the preview. It's very good. No, it's a tonal shift. It's a very marked tonal shift.
Okay, which is going to worry people.
It might worry.
So you better
people.
start selling it.
Well, the thing about The Witcher, and this applies to the first two games as well, is that the world is unrelentingly bleak. It's covered in shit.
Yeah.
And there's poor people everywhere, and there's disease and occupying armies, and
it's
the
like
whole
the north
place.
of England, right?
Yeah. The whole place is in a constant state of war. Again, rather like the north of England. And nowhere Geralt goes usually most of the places he goes aren't particularly
There's
nice.
trouble.
There's always
everywhere.
a bit of trouble. There's usually a bit of shit on the floor, or up the walls, or on the ceiling, or on people's legs. So trouble and strife everywhere. Okay, so he gets summoned to this new region called Toussaint. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. And this is a very strange land in the world of The Witcher, because it's one unravaged by war, and it's actually full of like very kind of Disneyfied, kind of Victorian ideas of chivalry, knighthood, and bravery, and courage, and all that nonsense. And it kind of satirizes that a little bit. So you've got this man who's been plucked out of a war zone. And plonked it. It's like somebody being taken out of Beirut and put in the middle of Mayfair and gone, right, help these fuckers with their problems. And he's walking around going, what problems? What do you mean? What, 2 murders? That's what you called me up here for?
There's no parking in Mayfair. That is a big one.
That is a big problem, yeah. And that's really there's a few kind of themes to it. And the first one that's very evident, which is kind of a meta theme, I guess, but is that of retirement. This is the last Geralt story. They've been... Their CD Projekt's standard line on it is that it's not necessarily the last story in this world that they're going to do, but it is the last Geralt story they're going to do.
I mean, that's probably not true, but...
but it's saying goodbye to this character, right?
For now.
So he has... over the course of the story of this expansion, he gets given a vineyard with a nice little kind of house in it. And
it's an Assassin's Creed game, right?
Not quite. It's sort of like an Elder Scrolls house, like a Skyrim house.
Can you do the house up?
It's upgradable, yeah. You can do it up.
Okay, so I was right.
Yeah. You can sink money into it.
This is great.
I mean, it's...
See, this has me interested in The Witcher, Jim, because I've just read your preview, which is very good, videogamer.com, check it out. But I was never really into the main Witcher game, nor its first expansion, or the other two before, because it just, that whole fantasy RPG thing, it's not for me.
Yeah.
But now I feel like I'm going to have to do some sort of Everest-style climb down on my no Witcher policy. Because this actually sounds, you just go around twatting aristos while upgrading a nice house and being a bit, amused by everything.
Yeah.
That is the game that I want to play.
That's what it is. I mean, that is what it is. This is Geralt goes into this world and talks to people who've lived very sheltered, very privileged lives, whose problems usually amount to, I fancy a lassie, or, and like there's a brilliant cut. There is an optional kind of quest you can do where you help a knight woo somebody, and it's worth doing it just for Geralt's sort of incredulous look, as the guy's like, well, what I need you to do is go and steal a thing, and then we're gonna go use that to go and impress her. And Geralt's just like big mad shagger Geralt as well, because he's never had any. Geralt's like, I've never had to nick anything to get in bed with someone. What the fuck are you on about? He's like, you might as well be smoking a cigarette and pinging it at him when the conversation's over. That's what I imagined. But one of the dialogue options is like, you know what? I'm curious. I'm going to see how this pans out because I find this funny.
It's a playful end to.
It's very playful, yeah.
Yeah,
and
the game's had that from what I hear. Again, I haven't really played any of them, but Geralt himself always seemed to be, if not quite totally aloof, but to have a kind of reflected from the player kind of, is this happening again?
The thing about Geralt as well is he's considerably older than the other characters he meets, despite the fact that he looks...
It's just like me when I go to any video game conventions.
Yes, oh my word, yes. So he's always got a sort of a kind of a distant, an outsider's view of most of the things that are going on around him. And The Witcher has never been without humor. It's never been it's never been completely pole-faced, but it has been very, as I say, bleak. But even the color palette of Blood and Wine changes. So it's all very green, it's very red, it's very rich, it's very bright, it's very saturated. Whereas, the old landscapes were muted, the kind of color palette you would expect from a place that's supposed to be depicting war ravage and being occupied, and it's a much kind of happier, more whimsical place, and so it's the kind of place where if two people get murdered in a basement in Novigrad in the main game, barely anyone would notice.
It's just Tuesday, right?
But this is enough in Toussaint to make the aristocracy go absolutely mental and decide that they need Geralt of Rivia to come along and shake things up.
Just like Pale Rider, but with mad aristos.
Yeah, you even have a rivalry with like the police sergeant, essentially, the chief knight, who's just like, listen, this is my investigation.
I need to play this. I'm excited.
And Geralt's just giving it like, listen, fuck you, mate.
It seems like a big piss take in a lot of ways.
It is.
So I like that. What else is new? Some UI stuff?
The UI, and this is an update that everyone will be getting when this hits, whether you've got the expansion or not, but they have tweaked the UI so it's a bit cleaner, it's a bit more easy to navigate. I did find that being used to the old UI, it was a bit of a mental exercise to use the new one effectively. So, but for new players, definitely that will be
what's the specific thing that tripped you up?
Just things being in different places, the different buttons to navigate and stuff like that. I mean, it wasn't totally different, but it was different enough that it could throw you.
In the between the Assassin's Creed games, when they just kind of changed some of the up-down mechanics for climbing, and it gives you a little pause, or like between Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3, where they moved what's it called, heel from triangle to square.
The difference is subtle, but it's significant. Yes, yeah. But as well, Blood and Wine adds a new leveling system, which is based around combining what are called mutagens. They're kind of like the basis of the Witcher's sort of power.
Yeah.
And they do have a big role to play in the leveling system of the old game, but now they've opened up this whole new thing where there's more abilities to get, and that's a nice kind of a nice expansion of the ceiling for higher level people, because if you're taking your Geralt into this, your Geralt is going to have to be pretty much at the ceiling anyway. Yeah. So it gives those people a nice nice new ways to give Geralt new abilities. And a lot of them are kind of tailored to the kind of things you'll be doing in Blood and Wine as well. There's new monsters, there's new tactics. There's a right. I mean, there were I only played it for 3 hours, as I say, and there were 4 signature battles with new creatures, which is quite cool. There was one kind of standout moment where you fight a really big beast that's blind, so you have to use, but it's not damaged by bombs, but you have to use bombs to distract it, and I thought that was quite it was kind of thinking on your feet, thinking outside the box a little bit. I thought that was quite cool. And there's the story was getting into vampirism at the point where I was taken off it. They didn't want
you were removed from the case.
Yes, they didn't want us to know everything, obviously. No. So it was just getting it was already interesting, but it was just getting to the, oh shit, there's a vampire involved.
Well, I mean, of course there is. But Jim, you know what? That sounds bloody good. And that's coming from someone who really doesn't like fantasy RPGs, even if they're kind of a lot more open, like The Witcher 3 is.
I think The Witcher 3 more so than the other two, actually. There's a lot of people who don't like fantasy RPGs, and that's totally fine, but The Witcher 3 actually made a lot of people reconsider that, because
I'll never reconsider it.
Well, it's good despite those trappings, whether you like them or not. It does actually tell a very cool, very human kind of story. So
yeah, right. Well, I'm not going to play that one, but I definitely will play this one. Well done, Jim.
If you like that and you fancy hearing about another story that's essentially about retirement, why not click the left